mateys, and welcome to I'm Ready, a SpongePod Squarecast, episode 4. First time I'm having this guest on. This is actually my second guest ever. I had to start with Nate only because I didn't want to start with Nate. But Nate was a very important person to get me into podcasting. But in absolute reality, my guest today has been someone that I have watched more SpongeBob with than anyone else on this planet. And we actually had a 5-minute math problem trying to figure out what grade we were in together when SpongeBob debuted, which is insane. It actually predates our actual friendship. So I'm here with my best friend, Alex Blazik.
Hello!
Do I have consent to record you?
No.
Tough. Yeah, so we did the math. I had switched schools about midway through 3rd grade and was brought from a private school to a public school. And we were in the same... were we in the same class in 3rd grade?
In 3rd grade, we were in... Because our school had 2 different classes for each grade.
Right.
You were not in my class.
Okay, so you were in the opposite class. And I guess SpongeBob debuted at that time, which is weird because I don't remember that being the case.
Yeah, I honestly don't remember any time where I didn't know you when I was watching SpongeBob.
Right. When I think back to Miss Michael's 3rd grade, I think of 2 things. I was into wrestling.
Hold on.
Yes.
You were in Miss Michael's class.
Yes.
Then we were in the same class.
Oh my goodness. Yes, because we had dropping names that no one listening to this would know, but Sean Bradley was in our... That's where I met him, was in Miss Michael's, and Damien was also in that class.
I was too busy chasing chicks in 3rd grade.
Actual chickens around the school, because we went to a farm. No, I remember 2 things. I remember Dragon Ball Z gaining traction. There was some fans in the 3rd grade of Dragon Ball Z, and... No,
I was all the fans.
You were all the fans. There was somebody... Do you remember around... They had this weird hallway that connected a few hallways, and I remember...
Yes.
We would do... I don't know if it was science projects, but we would have little desks lined up around.
Yeah.
Somebody did their project in Dragon Ball Z. Was that you? Or are you claiming that you were the only fan?
But then again, I was so... I had my brothers... They were my friends at that point in time. I didn't care about anybody else at that point in time. I don't remember. I don't even remember there being a Dragon Ball Z project.
There was...
Because I know I did mine on Egypt. I believe it was Egypt.
Okay. I don't know. There's like these weird flashes that I remember something associated with Dragon Ball Z, but I wasn't even a fan of that yet.
To be honest, the only project that kind of science-y outside desk project I remember doing was the one with you when we did the electronic game thing.
Yeah, that was during... That was in 3rd grade. That was 5th grade.
That was 5th grade, yeah.
Yeah. Which 5th grade is when we actually became friends. And it was... of course, we had similar likes, but it was definitely out of convenience because we literally lived on the same street.
Yeah.
So...
The only reason why I wanted to be friends with you is because we lived on the same street.
Yeah.
It was after we became friends that I got to know you.
It worked out in the end. But I remember the reason I was shocked that SpongeBob started earlier than what I thought is that I had a very early on SpongeBob t-shirt from Hot Topic. That was... Back then, it was just a picture of SpongeBob on it, and it said, I don't know, like something like absorbent. It was just...
Yeah, it said absorbent.
It said something silly. I used to get made fun of for that shirt, because I wore that until middle school. People made fun of me for it. And those same people, because I got really good at drawing SpongeBob, were then asking me to draw SpongeBob for them in high school. So it's just, it's the circle of life. Everybody were like... Well, we're in high school now, so we're just going to wear leather jackets and watch MTV. And I'm like, okay, MTV is great, but you don't have to stop watching the things you enjoyed just because you're in middle school. And it's so silly to think about now. But yeah, so Dragon Ball Z and wrestling, because my friend Damien at the time was into WCW more than WWF, so he
You're actually friends with that kid?
At the time I was. It wasn't a fulfilling friendship, and it was kind of a crash course in learning of, you know how teachers like to instill everybody is your friend.
Yeah.
No, they're not. That's not the case. But anyway, but yeah. So we went to elementary school together, and we watched a lot of SpongeBob. When I associate you with SpongeBob, I think of the time that you came over when I first got the movie on DVD, and like we watched it.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I felt weird of like we are watching a movie right now, and even though that was more than half of the stuff we did was play video games and watch movies, but I remember feeling, I don't know if he's in a SpongeBob right now, but we're watching this movie. And the movie is my favorite thing they've ever created out of SpongeBob. It holds up to this day and is one of my favorite films. And it always is weird when I tell people I'm into cinema, and they ask you what's your favorite films, and my first two are Clerks and The Big Lebowski, and most people go, okay, I get that, and then you get to my third, the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, and most cinephiles are like, what? And yeah, it holds up. It's a great movie. So, but anyway, we are, I've already covered the first two episodes of SpongeBob, so we are now on episode 3, entitled Bubblestand, a absolute classic of SpongeBob. It first aired on July 17th, 1999, and it was the first episode really made post the pilots. There was that pilot, Help Wanted, and then there was Sandy's Tree Dome. This doesn't have to establish any characters, and it's kind of the first time that they don't have to work on, you know, making the characters or anything like that. They just have their sandbox and they can play with whatever they want, and boy, do they play. I
mean, like, pretty much all the episodes are great, but like, I couldn't believe that this episode was this early on in the series.
Yeah, when I pulled it up, which, as I said, I'll always be honest how we're watching. We're still rocking Amazon Prime until, I think Amazon stops at season 5, which then I'll switch to the DVDs. And the reason why I like Amazon, everybody else knows this, but I'm telling you this. The first episode ends with SpongeBob in the Krusty Krab helping feed all of the fish in the Krusty Krab. And Tiny Tim's song is playing. But if you have the complete first season on DVD, that song is replaced with a free song that they don't have to pay for.
Oh.
But the only ways to listen to that is if you have the complete third season. The original episode pilot is a special feature. If you have the first 100 episodes, same deal, which is its own set. And then Amazon Prime has the original airing of that episode. So it might be a streaming thing. They don't have to really pay for rights.
So they didn't have Tiny Tim from the beginning of the series?
No, they did. They did. When it aired on TV, they had Tiny Tim. But on subsequent DVD releases, I don't think it had... I think legally it couldn't be shown as like, this is the episode. It can only be shown as like a special feature. So, I don't know. It's just like a weird gray area of like, it's on the disc, but we don't have to pay for it. And that's why George Lucas, the original cuts of Star Wars were added in as, I believe, the skirting of it they were added in as special features on like later DVD releases. Like very low-res versions of the original cut.
He never re-released the original cut after it was released on theater.
There were in the early to mid 2000s when the prequel trilogy was in theaters.
Yeah.
They did a re-release of the original trilogy on DVD. It was like this is the DVD release.
Yeah.
Each film had the original cut as a special feature, but it was a horrible resolution version of it. Okay. It was like George Lucas being, this is as much as you are going to get out of me.
Right.
So anyway, but yeah, that was weird. So Amazon Prime is where we're rocking. But yeah, it is a very early episode. Definitely one of the more quotable episodes that you'll ever think of. All the characters, we're not having any new characters. It literally is just SpongeBob and Patrick, annoying Squidward, which would become a complete staple of this series, but has not been a thing at all at this point. When we're introduced to Squidward in episode 1, we know he lives next to SpongeBob. We know he doesn't like him, but we're never given any sort of context as to why he doesn't like this guy so much. And in this episode, we are shown why Squidward just is completely annoyed with SpongeBob. So, as usual, at least up to this point, we are going to pause the episode of what you're listening to, and then watch the episode Bubblestand from SpongeBob SquarePants Season 1.
2,000 years later.
All right, welcome back. Even though for you that was literally a millisecond, for us it was an entire episode of SpongeBob. If you want to follow us along, talking about the episode, you can press play on Bubblestand, skipping the intro right now. So this
actually 50 seconds in.
Yeah. This is the first piece of trivia I have to say, because this blew my mind when I read it. And I feel like it is important to bring up now. But this is actually the last episode of SpongeBob SquarePants written by Steven Hillenburg before his death. Like,
really?
He wrote this episode and never wrote an episode after this. Which...
How many episodes did he write?
I'm gonna guess just the first three, and that was it. Of course, he had a hand in the pilot.
Yeah.
And of course, he had a hand with Tea at the Tree Dome with the introduction of Sandy. But to know that this was the last episode that he wrote is insane, because he was still a showrunner up until season 4, which means he still had a hand, and I'm sure creatively he was still. He was at the helm of the show. It wasn't going to be made without him, but that blew my mind. This episode also premiered on David Hasselhoff's 47th birthday. A piece of trivia that needs to be said, because David Hasselhoff is ingrained in SpongeBob history. Now, there's a lot of firsts with this episode. As you pointed out, you asked if it was the first time we figured out how bad Squidward was at clarinet.
It just establishes that right away.
Yeah, pretty much right out of the gate. It shows a lot of his artwork, but he's been particularly okay with art, although he just includes himself in most of his art. So he's just got a lot of paintings of his face hanging around his house.
That's kind of how most artists start. A lot of self-portraits.
A lot of self-portraits. But I had mentioned, this is the first time we really get to see the annoyance of SpongeBob and Patrick on Squidward's everyday life. I'm guessing, like Chick-fil-A, Krusty Krab isn't open on Sundays. Probably not for the same reasons as Chick-fil-A, because Mr. Krabs is just probably forced of, like, you can't have your employees work 7 days a week. And he's like, well, I'm not going to pay any other employees, so we'll just be closed. Or maybe Mr. Krabs is like, you two don't work, I'll work by myself on Sunday. But, I don't know, it just seemed that SpongeBob's reaction in the morning just seemed like it's coming out for the first time today, so, or maybe they both work in the afternoon. I don't know the Krusty Krab's schedule. But, after seeing this, I thought how cool of an idea to make a bubble stand, just as a homage to SpongeBob. Even now, I probably would make a killing off of a bubble stand on a busy street or during a festival for 25 cents. But what is it? Is it 25 cents to blow one bubble?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you throw out the lessons for 25 cents. You're making 50 cents on people. But I gotta say, what a jerk to not mention the lessons beforehand. Of like, you're going to waste your first quarter, realize you can't blow a bubble, pay him another quarter for lessons, and then does he give you the free bubble after that, your original, or does he go, all right, you got to pay a quarter now to blow one? I need to know how this works, because if I'm setting this business up on the side of a road, I need to be able to explain myself to customers, and if the IRS comes knocking on my door and I need to present how my business runs, I need to study this episode. The technique.
I'm still referencing that to this day.
Yeah. And now, when you thought that this episode came later in the run, is it because of that?
It's because I still reference it to this day. Because I still say technique like that. Technique! I still do that.
That's been a thing, and of course, Patrick, it's a giraffe, which literally is one of the top 10 funniest jokes to ever appear in the show. which apparently was reused in a bunch of the video games. That sound bite of saying it's a giraffe. A scene of this episode is shown in the 2005 movie Zathura.
Oh.
Which I like more than the original Jumanji, although it is lacking a heavy dose of Robin Williams, but I believe makes up for a little bit in a dash of Dax Shepard.
I do like the Dax.
Yeah. Patrick, just thinking that this elephant going into Squidward's house is hilarious.
I wonder how much of that was his actual laugh versus looping the laugh.
Like, can you sustain this laugh for a full minute? While this elephant makes its way right into Squidward's house. Like, oh man, the bubble stand is closed. We can't blow our bubbles today. The noise of the submarine blowing up is the same noise as SpongeBob's alarm clock. I don't know if you realize that.
And that's a tugboat. Even though it looked like a submarine, it was a tugboat.
The technique reminds me of the time warp from the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
This is true.
Pretty much, just because the song tells you kind of how to dance.
Yeah.
This is weird. I sort of brought this up when we were watching. Later on in the run, there is an episode titled Wormy.
Yeah.
In which the entire society of Bikini Bottom become... they're almost burning the town down over the fact that this butterfly is roaming the town and is viewed as a monster. But
despite
here's
him knowing exactly what a butterfly is.
Knowing what a butterfly... At least, it's not weird to think that he knows land creatures because it is established in the last episode. He has a book that features a squirrel in it when he looks up Sandy. So he's got to be seeing ducks and elephants and butterflies in there. But
Squidward thought he could get away with theft.
I want to check. The first time when this was on, I didn't catch how much money he actually paid SpongeBob, because he definitely gave him over $1. But it's got to be all counterfeit. Because the first quarter here is counterfeit. So underrated. That Squidward is just handing out I don't even know if he knows, but the fact that he has a counterfeit quarter on him is funny in itself. He might have, knowing his luck, he was probably given that quarter where he found it, and then it's counterfeit.
I didn't catch it, but is he pulling? He's pulling. Yeah,
he has a pocket.
He's pulling the quarters out of his butt.
No, he just has a fold of skin that acts as a pocket.
That's a butt.
So he's up to $1 at this point. And I think it's really impressive that his bubbles are able to fall underwater and then make a fart noise.
I mean, they kind of established later that it's questionable whether or not the bubbles are bubbles or if they're filled with water.
All right, so $2.25 he is up to that he is paid to blow bubbles. He respects, out of everything, he respects SpongeBob's business and is not trying to take advantage of him because he knows him or he's a neighbor. And the fact that Squidward paid attention so intricately to the technique, especially the end parts.
I mean, he didn't do enough bringing around towns, but...
Yeah, he only did one.
He got everything else down pretty down pat.
That's why it swallowed his house.
True.
If he would have done the second around town, the bubble would have just went up.
Just the fact that he yells this bubble is the
Have you ever tried to yell into a bubble once?
I have tried to yell
into
a bubble and it did not work.
Did you do the technique?
Okay, I did not do the technique.
That's what you're missing. Oh man, the size of this bubble, and it's in his jeans, which I was gonna wait till here, but I mentioned to you that I turned to you and said that at the time when this came out, I didn't think about the fact of DNA being known as genes, and I just thought it was.
We didn't think about it because we didn't know about it.
Yeah, I thought it was just a reference to the fact that Squidward does not wear pants, and he says it's in my jeans, which is preceded by Squid's got jeans. No, he doesn't. He's pantsless. He's like Donald Duck. And here's my theory. All of a sudden right now, as you're watching, Squidward is really good at clarinet right now. My theory is it's the technique still working. Because just like bubble blowing, the technique, playing clarinet is still having to do with you having air leaving your mouth. Yeah, see? So if he would just do the technique before any recital, Squidward would play the clarinet super well.
All right. It's not
just like Kenny G. Squidward could be the modern day Kenny G. Kenny G is a good playing Squidward mixed with Weird Al Yankovic. And you get Kenny G. Yeah, this episode was, I guess, viewed by 1.9 million people. And
what, so far on Amazon?
No, just in general, like the initial airing of it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
That was the ratings on the episode?
No, that's really good. But we had a ton of writers. Eric Wise, Derek Dryman, Tim Hill. Of course, still Derek Dryman, which always has to be said. What a great name to be working on SpongeBob SquarePants.
I don't really get why he's playing so bad right now. Because I'd be stoked that my house landed in the same position it lifted off in from.
Although it's a little tilted.
A little bit tilted.
It's a little bit off centered. Maybe that's what's got him, freaked out. Is he's just not in a good position to be playing clarinet, and his house just floated nicely to the ground.
He's not standing on his right foot anymore.
But yeah, beyond the fact that it's surprising, I guess it is a little bit surprising to me, but definitely to you that it's so early in the run. That is a classic episode of SpongeBob SquarePants, and one that would be, if you met someone who has never seen SpongeBob before, you'd have to admit that would be in a top 10 of what you would show them.
Yeah.
Because that establishes so much, and it's so funny, and those jokes still hold up to this day.
Totally.
What's it called again?
What's what called again?
What's the technique called again?
Technique!
What is it?
Technique!
This is Captain Eric Cormier signing off. Say bye, Alex.
Take care, everyone.
Oh, you're supposed to say bye, Alex. That's the joke!
Hey, man. I'm pretty sure I made that joke before.
Well, you didn't do it this time.